AARP was incredibly interested in the conversation of housing as it relates to Montclair. So I appreciate Montclair Gateway to talk about how we can age in place here. ADU legislation, and these models are absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to, maybe we can get them set up down in Trenton. Legislators walk through the hallways and they can see the different displays. What I like the most about ADU legislation is, for me, it symbolizes a Trojan horse for affordable housing. And why do you need a Trojan horse for affordable housing? Because you have people who have been coined, not in my backyard people, NIMBY. They recognize that many people that they know, even themselves, could qualify for affordable housing, but because it has such a stigma to its name, they will fight very aggressively against it in different planning board meetings, in council meetings, or the like. So I'm of the philosophy, actually, that we need statewide inclusionary zoning, and that if any developer is coming to the township or the city in particularly, asking for a tax break by way of a pilot or a grant or anything they're needing the municipality's assistance to make their project make financial sense, that they be required to, at minimum, provide 20% affordability. We know that here in Montclair that is already, regardless of whether or not they have a tax incentive or not, that it just has to be so. When I talk about statewide inclusionary zoning, it's kind of like saying the F word in church in Trenton. No one wants to hear that. And but we're going to continue to fight for that very hard, as well as a statewide rent control. It's needed. It's needed not just for people who are aging in place, but how many have children who can't get off of their couches, right? Because they come home from college and cannot live in the very community in which they were cradled in. So we have a massive issue here in New Jersey, and that is a housing shortage. And even as I have been referred to as a housing expert, the number one question that I often get stumped with is when someone comes up to me in need and they say, where can I get an affordable house or an apartment? The simplest question, after knowing all that we know about housing, I struggle to answer, and that is simply because the demand is greater than the supply. So we need ADUs. ADUs also make sense, as we're here in New Jersey, and property taxes are astronomical. I'm a military child. My father served in the 82nd Airborne Army as a sergeant first class. He jumped out of perfectly good airplanes into war. And that meant that I got to travel all around the world and have been to about 8 or 9 different school systems. New Jersey is very unique because we have so many municipalities, and practically every municipality has its own school system, and therefore our property taxes are so high. I'd like to see more shared services to reduce property taxes, to create affordability, maybe even consolidation of some of these municipalities. But again, it's like saying the F word in church. So accessory dwelling units can help offset the cost, the high cost of living. Many of us live in nice-sized homes, but as we age, as we retire, our income becomes a bit limited. And this offers an opportunity to build on that property, and it also offers an opportunity even for those with young families such as myself to provide a home for my parents who are aging in place, right? It's so multifaceted. I have introduced a bill. I have got to mention the great Harold Simon, who is my dear friend, my dear mentor. He is the board president and my fellow co-founder of the Essex Community Land Trust. He was hoping to pop in today, but I don't think he's going to be able to make it. Harold has taken up the ADU issue like a dog with a bone. He really truly believes that this is something that will be able to usher in the next generation of affordability. I agree with him. As we wrote the legislation, one of the things that I stated is that, one, there should be no opt-out clause for the municipalities, because then that doesn't make the legislation worth the paper that it's written on. Because right now, municipalities, they already have home rule to decide whether or not they're gonna allow ADUs or not. So if you say, we are gonna allow statewide for there to be ADUs, but hey, you municipality, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, then that's just pandering to the ADU community and the people that want to see it happen, right? So we're holding the line on that in Trenton. We wanna make sure that each municipality has to figure out a way to allow for it to occur. Something that is very important to me is that I do not want building an ADU to end up becoming a wash for the property owner. What do I mean by that, right? So these are beautiful properties. You know that if you get a pool, if you add square footage to your home, what happens? The property tax assessor comes around and says, hey, this is nice, and it's the only thing that you can get taxed on, even though you're not necessarily selling it. Property taxes, it's the damnedest thing here in New Jersey. I don't want to see the municipalities raise the property taxes in excess, because then that defeats the purpose of affordability. Now the homeowner will then have to charge and make the rent comparable enough to be able to at least cover the property taxes and the additional expenses incurred from the unit. So not only are you dealing with the cost to build, mortgage financing on that, but then to see a property tax increase and absorb it in amount, we want to make sure that we're working to keep that down, and the legislation also speaks to that. Do we have some of the designers that are here?
Yes, we do.
They're all here.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Can you wave your hand at me? Okay. These are absolutely gorgeous. And I think that what you have designed here, we all know that architecture is an art form and a science combined. And I think that as people can visualize what it means to have an ADU, that perhaps will also remove some of the stigma, and it will make the fight in Trenton a little bit easier. So I will work through the Montclair Gateway to hopefully be able to have this set up in this display in Trenton during lame duck session, which I have spoken to the speaker directly about, needing to make sure that we get the ADU legislation passed. Now, those of you that have been following the legislation, there is also about 2 to 4 other pieces of legislation that are introduced. I am not a narcissist, one, so I don't have to have my name on everything, right? I'm not married to it needing to be my bill. The 2 main things that I just spoke of are what I'd like to see included in anyone's bill, whoever makes it to the finish line. I have been very clear about that down in Trenton, that I just want to see the best policy put in place so that New Jerseyans will be able to build, as well as people will be able to age in place and have the option to stay in their very community and hopefully in the backyards of your children. I thank you so much for the opportunity to come, and congratulations to all of the artists. It's absolutely gorgeous.